we'll have to wait probably until later this week to see whether Victoria extends its lockdown, and in particular, if New South Wales locks its borders against Victorians travelling. If that happens, I think it is almost impossible for the AFL to be able to continue its season at the moment. I am sure the players and the administrations of clubs will do whatever it can to keep the season alive. But the challenge before the AFL at the moment is more serious than it was this time last year, and I think all options have got to be considered. And I got a message last night to indicate that the length of the lockdown might be a number of weeks, which is frightening if correct. And if that were the case, I don't see how the season can continue at present. That is, I wonder whether we might be heading towards a postponement of some sort.
It was a dire warning. So what happened in Victoria in the aftermath, there were 3 additional cases, which was better than it might have been. But there are meetings taking place tonight to determine the extension of the lockdown, which most of us believe to be a formality. It's just how much longer is going to be added to the 7 days, which ends at midnight on Thursday. So Jeff spoke about the prospect of weeks rather than days, which would have sent a tremor down the spine. The line is fine for the game. We spoke last night about the New South Wales border, and that was right at the heart of Jeff's contemplation.
Yeah, it is. I know people tune into the radio and the news, and some people into this show to get COVID updates. And right now, it's such on tenterhooks. We haven't yet got in our hands the round 12 schedule for this weekend. So the AFL has been to give everyone some sort of indication of the pressure and the brick walls that are surrounding the AFL. They haven't got the draw out. They're expecting it tonight, but they've been working on it for 2 days. And they still can't get it over the line. They can't still make it public. Now, we expect some games to be in certain places, but that just goes to show the stress that the AFL is under. While New South Wales border is open, we're okay. If we get bigger numbers over the next couple of days, Gerard, and the walls go up to New South Wales, I'm with Jeff. I think that a postponement of the season is inevitable.
So it was put to me like this.
Do you think so?
Yes. But I don't think that's where it's headed at the moment. So today's number going down was very significant.
Absolutely.
Had it spiralled today, and it will have to go a long way for New South Wales to close its border. It is the least trigger happy and sort of has declared an intention at that front. It would have to have the feel that it's loose in Victoria, I think, for that to happen. And there was one mystery case today, which always attracts concern. So it was put to me that this moment, this is where it's at its most heightened. No one quite knows which way it's going to go in Victoria. When this is all being attempted next week, the exemptions and the like, we'll know. Either Victoria is right in it and totally off the table, or things are resolving and the exemptions, which have been hard to get over the past 48 hours, might be a little bit easier to obtain. What was really clear is the AFL shares the view of its players. They do not want hubs. They do not want indefinite periods on the road. So there is a...
But what's an indefinite period,
probably,
Gerard?
I would say more than 3 games, more than 2 weeks. So they want to be able to, if clubs have to hit the road, they want to be able to say, you will play these 3 games, it's a 14-day block, and you will come home
the day after.
They can't, the same thing that happened last year can't happen again. 30 days became 110. The AFL is absolutely akin with its players on that. So there's a very clear fear, and there are people who simply won't submit themselves for all sorts of reasons that are perfectly and easily understood and comprehended, that they just won't do it again. They won't be asked to do it again. It's far more likely, in my opinion, that the game will take a pause than try to shuttle people into hubs and displace them in the same way.
One of the reasons for that, and it hasn't been fully explored, I've tried, but it's just a subject that not a lot of people want to talk about, was not just the mental health toll on players last year, but the mental health toll on all the staff that went away from their families. Every week, everyone spoke about, oh, well done, players, and we feel sorry for the players, and thank you, players, and all that sort of stuff. And very rarely did the AFL, they would say it in passing, and then the media say, and thank you to all the club staff who, they went away for the same period of time, Gerard, from their families, from their kids, although I know it's the same thing, but from their loved ones. And there was a lot of mental toll that I don't think's really been explored from what happened last year.
There's a residual exhaustion, there's a residual angst out of all of it, which is real and recognised, and that's why we're not heading down the same path.
Can I ask you a personal question? Yeah, I will. Do you feel this lockdown, I heard it on radio today and I thought, geez, that's an interesting suggestion. Do you feel that this lockdown we're having now, it's only been going for, 5 days, is taking a heavier toll than what the lockdowns did last year? I know they were a bit longer, but this one's not again.
Yeah.
I feel that it's a heavier burden.
Yeah, there's an accumulation, no doubt. And there's also that sense in
Do you feel it?
Not quite. I remember the latter stages of the lengthy lockdown during winter, and I've never known Melbourne to be like that. It's not like that, I don't think, at the moment. That had ground people down. It had almost crushed the spirit of the town.
This goes for another couple of weeks, Gerard. It'll go close.
What the extension is plays a very big role. So the rounds, 5 of the 6 games are locked. So let's walk you through. We know Friday night, Melbourne and the Brisbane Lions is going to be at Giants Stadium. So
does this just come through? Or are we guessing?
No. So I've had 5 of the 6 confirmed, and I'll tell you the one that's not confirmed. So this is how it is going to be. This is not I listened to Gerard Healy last night. He was spot on. This is not the best presentation of the game. The best presentation of a vibrant Friday night, which is 2 of the best 4 teams in it, would have been at the Gabba.
Upstairs
they
at the
wouldn't have been
Gabba.
able to get in. So the Queensland exemption hasn't come for Cairns. It wouldn't have come for this. So that is...
Hasn't come from Cairns?
No, so it would have been... It's an academic exercise, an interesting one, but not relevant. So St Kilda and Sydney's going to be at the SCG on Saturday afternoon. St Kilda couldn't get the clearance to head into Cairns from the Queensland government. The AFL couldn't secure it. So the following week, St Kilda is due to play in Cairns again.
Yes.
That's to be against Adelaide. The question is, does being in Sydney, so they'll go to Sydney and stay in Sydney?
Yep.
Will it be different from the government next week, given that the team has been based for a week in Sydney? There is a source of optimism on that front that next time around. But what this is just
But
they
turned away the Giants after 13 days, mate.
Yeah.
So that'll be just on 14 or maybe 13 days
so
again.
These things are going to be right on the cusp. So this is the straight flip-flop for round 21, where the SCG game will now be played at Marvel when the Swans and the Saints meet.
Yep.
The specifics are not yet nutted out for Adelaide and Collingwood for the fly-in, fly-out game. So there's been a lot of negotiations back and forth. It had been hoped at one stage that the fixture would be released in the middle of the day, but there's been a lot to work through with the South Australian government, and the AFL has progressively tried to do that. The question will be the specifics of the exemption. Are they workable for a football team to be able to get in, play and get out?
What would you do, Gerard?
So I think...
If you were the Adelaide government?
I'd
say no.
Why?
Because I think there's too much of a risk.
So I think the South Australian government is there on yes for fly in, fly out under these conditions, and then it's for the AFL and Collingwood to figure out, do those conditions actually marry up with...
I think the conditions are going to be really harsh.
Yeah.
If I was in South Australia and I was, working in the state government, I would say no. This is a very, very serious issue we've got here in Melbourne. And this is a game of football, Gerard. And the people of South Australia, I'm sorry, are more important than a game of football.
Oh, there's no question that's true.
But so don't run the risk.
The Collingwood players going in aren't from the general population. They have lived in isolation. They have been rigidly tested. They will be tested and come back negative.
I don't trust our testing. I personally don't trust the testing. The fella from Epping or whatever he was, north of Melbourne, was in quarantine in South Australia for 14 days. He flies into Victoria and 2 days later he starts getting symptoms and spreads it around the community. I read in the newspapers today, and believe every word you read, and I'm not being sarcastic then, we have health officials saying people are getting this walking past each other. You know, and I don't think... I get the impression that people aren't accepting that this is a really, really, really serious issue that we've got here.
Yeah.
I do. And I read all this, I think, God, what is going on in this world out here?
There are a lot of safeguards that are put in place. I don't think the South Australian government, given that it emanated from their state, has the moral high ground necessarily, but that's to be worked through.
Well, I don't think this is any moral high ground.
The expectation is that will happen.
I think there's a protective high ground.
Yeah. Dreamtime is going to be in the West, which we knew yesterday. That will take us through Carlton and West Coast at the SCG on Sunday afternoon, and Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs rounds out the game.
Great weekend of footy in Western Australia.
It is. So to achieve that, it has been gruelling, with that one piece still to land to confirm the South Australian game. If you're going to run this just a little bit further, Robbo, so the fly-in, fly-out is critical. If Collingwood gets it, then the AFL would go back through the process for the following Thursday night when Geelong is scheduled to play Port Adelaide. If the parameters are too tight and impractical, then it would have to be revisited, but the circumstances in Victoria might be more declared by then. I've got one more contemplation to raise with you on this front, and then we'll leave it. So for round 13 and 14, we need to start to ponder this question. What's the best home for these games? Because it is surely not an empty MCG or Geelong. So Big Freeze 7. This is a major event on the footy calendar. This needs a new home. It's not going to be at the MCG in front of nobody. That does the game and the event no justice. So I'm a bit of a... This is where South Australia should be pitching its tent. It should step in and say, hey, we'll take Big Freeze 7. We'll see what Western Australia does with Dreamtime, and then we'll stage this major event for football and make it... Imagine what a day it would be at Adelaide Oval with all the festivities that go around it.
No, at Optus Oval or Adelaide Oval. Both those, the top two.
Gaping opportunity for
Geelong,
South
Western
Australia.
Bulldogs.
What's the best place for Geelong and the Bulldogs? Hawthorn and Essendon should go to Tassie. That would be... Would that be the biggest fixture they've had?
I have no issue.
Years?
I would have no issue with that whatsoever.
So let's not waste those in front of empty terraces. Let's put them in the best possible home and let's do it quickly.
Yeah, I'm not being flippant, Gerard. I'd throw Geelong, Western Bulldogs. You can go to Tassie as well.
Yeah.
You always get the Hawks.
Friday night, sell it out.
Friday night, sell it out. Big celebration of football in Tasmania.
I'm with you.
Put it on the map and then you say, look, Gil, look what we can do. Look at all the people that turns up. Give us our team.
Bit of proactive thinking required here.